Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Dykstra, and I'm here to talk to you about partnering with the community to build a workforce through programs. And pretty much that means is looking at non-traditional talent and building out a program where you could work with diversity partnerships or nonprofits to bring in transferable skills with talent. So meaning that you will find people that maybe have not heard of your industry and you're bringing them and teaching them about your industry, but they already have some of the skill sets that you're looking for the roles that you're hiring them for. I have been in HR for over 15 years. Started off on the employee relations side, doing employee relation investigations. Worked at an insurance brokerage after that as HR manager, focusing on the employee experience. So when you think about from the moment someone hears about your organization to the moment that they leave you, all those milestones in between, I worked on enhancing those processes. So performance reviews, anniversaries, leadership training, anything that had to do with career development was all the areas that I was looking into when I was in that HR management position. And it was really using the thinking outside the box because I was working at a best place to work. So it really started sparking that idea of not about best practices, but really what does work for this organization? And since they already are a best place to work, how do I bring something beyond best practices? And that's really where my creative skills and juices started to work to start thinking about a non-traditional workforce. From there, I went to a startup and have been able to build an HR team from that organization. And now I'm at American Family Insurance and have been there for 2.5 years, focusing on diversity recruiting and early career, so campus recruiting. And in that time that I've been with American Family, they've given me a lot of opportunities to build out some programs and projects to bring that non-traditional talent to the organization. I also have my executive coaching license. So that means I love leadership development and working with others and getting them where they want to go. I have a master's in HR management. Again, my undergrad's in law enforcement. So I kind of fell into HR, which you hear from a lot of people that you end up in HR, even though you have a completely different background. And then in my free time, I do some volunteer work with Best and Brightest Executive Board, which is an organization that really works with best places to work and bringing innovative ideas to the organizations to make sure that we're treating people right and retaining people. And then I'm also part of a SHRM chapter called Northwest Human Resource Council, and it's in the Chicagoland area. And when I'm not working or volunteering, I'm with my two little kiddos, Bennett and Allie. They are 8 and 10, and we love exploring and having adventures together. So you would find us at a festival or traveling, road tripping across the country, or just exploring the great outdoors. So if you want to connect with me, this is my QR code to my LinkedIn. I would love to help you out in any way that I can, or if you have additional questions, just send me a message. So what we're going to cover today is just what's going on in the workforce. It's very fascinating what's been taking place the past 2 years with COVID, where we need to start thinking about talent, and thinking about it from a different realm. How to convince your leadership to get on board with an idea of you starting a non-traditional workforce with talent, and then how to start. So I put together a couple different steps you can consider as you're building out your project or program. And then how, after you get this program up and running, how do you start showcasing your success? And then if you want to expand it up other categories, how do you go about doing that? So what's very interesting right now is that we've never seen the movement that we're seeing in the workforce. Based on a couple of different pieces of data that I was able to get when looking about the workforce recently, you're starting to see a really interesting picture being built. What we're seeing right now is we have employees saying that they still plan on exiting the organization by the end of this year. Again, we're in October, so they're planning on leaving before the end of the year. Interesting, because normally you won't see that many people do movement because they're waiting for bonuses to come after the new year. And usually you'll see Q1 and Q2 where there's a lot of movement of employees jumping to other organizations. So 1 out of 5 are still saying they're going to quit by the end of the year. The other piece that's very interesting is employers are being surveyed and they're saying, hey, 50% of them are looking at doing layoffs in the next 12 months. And if you're following LinkedIn, you've probably seen some tech companies that have done layoffs recently. And we could be in a recession, but we could be getting closer to a recession just with some of the things that we're seeing. Even with that recession in place, though, or these warning signs, we're still seeing people leave the workforce at large numbers. We've never seen these large numbers. So 4.5 million of Americans left in November. And at that time, they said, this is a one-time thing. It's not going to happen again. And then it happened again in March that we saw 4.5 million people quit. The other interesting thing is for the last 5 to 7 years, we've talked about how there's not enough people that can do the skill sets that are needed. So when you look at the stat that I have out here saying 2 million jobs are at risk of going unfilled in 2023, that's manufacturing jobs in America, where the skill set isn't there, and we need to start focusing on that industry so that we do keep factories in America. But we got to figure out, how do we bring that talent in there? And maybe it's because we're not looking at the right talent. Maybe we need to look at other areas to bring people in from different industries. And then the other interesting piece is that your parents probably always told you the grass isn't greener on the other side. We're seeing that now. People that have jumped since COVID has come into place have regretted it, 26% to be exact. I've heard bigger stats than that from SHRM, but the report that I saw said 26% of people are regretting it. This is interesting because then you can look at another part of your workforce and looking at bringing boomerangs back. So boomerangs are people that used to work for you and bring them back into your organization to bring them in maybe at a higher level because they got experience after they left you. But if you've had high performers leave you because they wanted opportunity to be in a management role or, more advanced positions, it might be worth you exploring and seeing if those people want to come back. And then the last piece I'll talk about is just the workforce being contingent labor. So what we're seeing right now is 42% worldwide is contingent employees. And what we're going to be seeing is the contingent market is going to increase in the next 5 to 10 years, somewhere around 50% to 55%. So you also want to think about your workforce from an angle of, do all the people that work at my organization need to be full-time? Or can it be project-based, or can it be temporary? But you should start thinking about a certain percentage of your workforce falling into the contingent labor component. All right, in order for your program to work, when we talk about creating a program that really looks at non-traditional talent, you need to be on board that there are transferable skills that are out there and that you can teach some transferable skills or teach some technical skills to people. I always love losing the example of myself. Like I told you guys, I have a law enforcement background and I fell into HR. I started doing employee relation investigations when I was in loss prevention at Walgreens, and that opened the door for me to get into HR. Got really good at employee relation cases such as sexual harassment, hostile work environment, and someone took a risk on me and said, like, hey, we can teach Katie HR. We can teach her those components. She's got the investigation piece down. Can we teach her now the employment law component and how that connects back to the employee relation cases that she's investigating? So again, I think with transferable skills, you have to look at it from the realm of taking a risk on someone that you see that they are passionate, they are capable of doing the job, but they might not have all the skills there. And that's where it comes in as a manager or your learning and development area helps enhance these people and this talent, because I'm seeing it more and more. People are seeing transferable skills internally into their organizations, but it's much harder for people to see that concept with external talent coming into your organization. I know when I meet with hiring managers, they will say, these are must-have skills with this job you're about to post. And when I push back and I say, are all of them must-have, or are some of them nice to have, and that there's opportunities that we can teach some of these skills here versus finding a unicorn that has all 10 skills that you're looking for. So again, I love bringing up transferable skills because I believe that is the future of the workforce, is actually taking talents from different areas and giving them the opportunity to grow because they're passionate about a different area, and that you give them the opportunity to grow by going into a different department, division, shadowing, a project of some type, but you're opening that door to see talent differently. And so again, I wanted to talk about transferable skills because it's very key when you're building out a program. I'm in the DEI space, so I sometimes have to talk to leaders that might not be on board with DEI and explain why it is so beneficial for them to start thinking from this realm. If we're able to create inclusive cultures, we're going to be building high-performing teams. You just have to give the opportunity for the investment, meaning that you're not going to see these results right away. It could take anywhere between 3 to 5 years before you start to see these results that Deloitte Insights stats that I have up on here. But 10 years ago, it was really hard to find white papers or case studies on DEI. Now it's a lot simpler to find some of these cases so that you can use this as a way to talk about why you want to start looking at different avenues to bring in diversity into your organization. Now, as we talk about building out a program, and I'll give you a couple different examples of programs that I've built at American Family that are from different diversity categories. Each time that I know I'm going to try an idea based on an area that I see there's an opportunity, I think about a stakeholder analysis. So I need to figure out, again, American Family is really large. We have 13,000 employees, and we have a few different operating companies underneath the enterprise. I don't know every division, department that exists at our organization, but I can figure out who the stakeholders are to help represent the idea that I have. So I'll think about the executive leaders or senior leaders at the organization, any individual contributors that might be in that department that I want to build out an idea, and any board members or managers that would directly work with these individuals. And with that, I then bring out the next question, which is, what can they provide? So do they provide power, influence, or interest? And I start to look at my list and figure out where they fall in those categories. And then I also try to figure out why it might be important to them if I want to do a program like this. And once I have that all together, I can start to build out a stakeholder map. And that helps me have a better idea of who I need to connect with in order to get this pilot up and running for this program. So convincing leadership. There are 4 steps you can take when you figure out who are your stakeholders. And I'm assuming some of them are going to be leaders. And you need to have a conversation about where they're at with DEI, because this program you're building does relate to diversity. And they might not have a good lens on that. You don't know. So having a conversation with them and figuring out their understanding on their perspective when it comes to DEI, reflecting on their perspective. So actively listen and understand what they're saying, and then propose your idea as a way to help them achieve their goals. So again, they have goals as well in senior leadership roles. How does this project help them? And then I always sell my idea by saying we can do it as a pilot. We can start small. It's not going to cost that much if we do start small. It's going to cost time, effort, and energy. Yes, we might have to build out a training program, but these things aren't that expensive to do. Again, when you're working with nonprofits, it's not like working with a staffing agency and what you would pay someone from an agency to help you recruit certain people. These are nonprofits that really want to do good for the community, and they want to bring people in so that they're off the streets or just having a better life than what they would have previously if they weren't part of this nonprofit. So where do you start? I was able to figure out 5 steps that I've taken when putting these programs together, and these are high level. We'll go into each individual step in more detail in the upcoming slides. Think about your workforce. So what I'm asking you to do is to collect data. If you're a small organization or a big organization, you have access to data in HR, and you need to pull those stats to see what the picture shows you. Again, data is going to help you figure out the next step in the process. So what you're looking for is seeing turnover, engagement scores, exit surveys, any forecasting that you've done. If you're already thinking about 2023 and what's going to happen with hiring. Also, looking at any trends that you see. So do you see high turnover in a certain area? Do you see large amounts of hiring in a certain area. So in my case, I saw large amounts of hiring taking place at Affix. That's our claims area, our operating company. And with them, they hire in two different areas. We saw claims adjusters. And again, claims adjusters can be in multiple different parts. So again, there might be a few claim adjuster roles. Think about property, think about automobile, life insurance, all that stuff has claim auditors. And with that, I also saw that our care center needed help. So when you get into a car accident and you call about your claim that you need to make, the call center is what I'm referring to, and we call it a care center. And we see that we do lots of hiring in those areas. So with that, I wanted to pull some more data on that. Step 2 is really looking at skills needed in these roles. So think about from a care center side, if you're working in a call center, what skills are a must-have versus what can be taught, and you can start building out that list. Then you're going to start to figure out step 3, which is where do you see similar skill sets in your call center that can be used in different industries that you might be able to pull talent from. And then 4 is probably the hardest step of all. It's because if you're not an expert in diversity recruiting, or you're not an expert with nonprofits, this is going to be the hardest piece, because you somehow have to figure out who do you want to partner with to bring that talent in and help the community. And then the other piece you want to do is socialize the idea. So again, bringing people that are individual contributors that are doing the role right now, leaders that would be working directly with that workforce, and any senior leaders that have any feedback. Like, take people on the journey with you, because the more information you can get, the better decisions you're going to make as you're building out this program. So in my case, what I was telling you about is really focusing on analyzing your workforce. If you're a smaller organization, it's going to be a manual pull for you to get this data. I highly recommend if you can go back 3 years to see what your data shows, that is going to be helpful for you, because you can start to see trends. If you're unable to pull that, I'd recommend staying around 18 months so you can start to see at least beyond a year of where you've had hiring and turnover take place, and are there any themes that you're seeing. If you have pulse surveys, seeing what those pulse surveys showed. If you have exit surveys, what are you seeing trending in that? And then based off those results, you're going to have a better idea of what areas you think there's some opportunities are. In my case, again, focused on that care center, because I saw there was an opportunity in that area with bringing a diverse group of people in that maybe haven't had the opportunity to understand claims or insurance, and we can teach them. So step 2 is those lists of skills. So when I think of someone working in a call center, I'm thinking they have to have good communication skills. They have to be great with working in different softwares. They probably have to type so many words per minute, because again, they have to fill out a case report that has all this information in it. So I need someone that's detailed with their work. And then I'm trying to figure out, what can we teach them? Well, we can teach them how to use systems. I can't teach them to type faster. That's probably going to be something that they're going to have to at least meet with going into the job. But again, I started to build out that list, and I honestly asked those hiring managers as well what they saw, because maybe they're seeing something that I didn't see. Because again, I come from the talent acquisition side, the HR side. I'm bringing a different perspective to the table versus theirs. Step 3 is really figuring out those similar skills. So I wanted to give you guys a couple of examples of where we've seen the workforce work really well. I just told you about claim adjusters and how people don't really think when they grow up they want to be a claims adjuster, because one, we're not talking about it at universities. There's not that many schools that have risk management, and there's not that many schools that have an insurance program. Those that do usually have it based on sales, and risk management usually is not thinking about it from a claims world. So we've seen teachers, construction workers, and law enforcement do really well in these roles. Why, you might ask? Because teachers are very detailed and they're very good with communication. We've actually hired teachers just to work in the summer when they have their months off, so they're still bringing in an income, because they are so talented when it does come to claims. And we taught them insurance. We taught them the claims component. It was teachable. We've seen construction workers do really well. They like it because they're working better hours, and they already understand the industry to the extent that they've built houses, so they know what to look for if there's damage. And then law enforcement, for those of you that are familiar with police officers, they are very detailed with their case reports. That's what they're taught. They're taught to be investigators. That's what claim adjusters are. They're investigators. So they're very detailed with their work and fact finding. And then again, if we wanted to take it from a different perspective, I love looking at COVID and what happened, because you really saw a workforce that said, no, thank you. I am leaving this industry based on what's going on in the world. And that was your hospitality workers. Your hospitality workers didn't want to be bartenders anymore, or waiters, because they saw an issue with safety for their family. They also didn't want to start working nights and weekends again. They wanted to be with their family. And to them, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday works really well. The great part about them is they're great with customer service. They know how to hustle. They're great salespeople. You just got to teach them what they're selling and how to close a deal. But they already have 90% of the skill sets that are needed. So it was very interesting talking to my peers in the world when COVID was going on, saying like, this is a great opportunity for you to get some good talent that maybe you guys haven't considered before in the past when it comes to entry sales. And then last piece, like from the HR world, I've seen people do really well that are recruiters that were teachers or salespeople before, because it's about relationship building and communicating effectively. And those two groups do it really well. So as you come with your list of where you're thinking about industries that people do really well or roles, keep that in mind. Now here, how I'm going to connect the dots for you is that with step 4 is really focusing on finding that nonprofit. So there are organizations in your community across geographical locations that are finding people that need help. So I'll give you the example that I have an organization called Wings that's in the Chicagoland area that focuses on men and women, mostly women, that have been part of domestic violence, and they've had to leave their jobs because they haven't been able to stay in a stable job or be able to show up because of the things that are going on in their personal life. So Wings has a program where they'll put a majority of women through how to do basic skills so that they can find a career entry level, that they can get themselves back in a good, stable situation. There are employers in the Chicagoland area that partner with Wings that after they get done having a cohort, that we try to find places for them to land, that we think the skill sets they're learning in that cohort would work out great in our employer realm of what we have in the Chicagoland area. It is a great opportunity to give back to your community and help someone off their feet. They are loyal people because you're giving them a chance to have a career that they wouldn't have had if they kept staying in the current scenario that they're in. But we give them those opportunities. Now, have we had to teach other skills to them? Absolutely. But you should be teaching your workforce all kinds of learning and development opportunities they should have. So again, that's a small example, but there are many that are even national that you can find that is a nonprofit that is trying to do good by offering training and development for people that have had a disadvantage. And with that, you can then start to build out what groups you want to work with. So if you're currently at a company, you can see what nonprofits you guys already partner with and see if they do any cohorts or upskilling or reskilling with people. If they don't have anybody, you can ask if they have any recommendations. You can also post this on LinkedIn. People love helping people, so you will get responses of people that specialize in this area and can give you some suggestions. And then lastly, any of your Chamber of Commerce can also help. Like they can give you where you can start in what geographical location. If you're in multiple footprints, that's great, because then you have multiple Chamber of Commerce that are willing to help you and find the right partner that you're looking for a nonprofit. Once you have your nonprofit in mind and you start thinking about the program that you're trying to build and what roles it's going to go into, you can start building out your project plan. And you can start figuring out who needs to be part of it. You can think about it from a RACI matrix if that's what works for you. But whatever it is, you need to figure out those milestones that you need to build to make this program go live. How many people do you want to take in a cohort? What training needs to be developed for them? Is there any special onboarding that needs to take place? And then having subject matter experts, so your SMEs, telling you the pros and cons of doing this role, what training needs to exist, how do we make sure that they're having good connections at our organization and that it's a good experience? And then how do we expand it if it does really well? Like at what point do you start to reflect on the things that went well or not so well with getting it up and running? In my case, when I was getting my program up and running for the few that I have put together, I had to work with procurement because I'm at a bigger organization. So they were able to help me look through contracts. I had to talk to legal. I had to get my senior leaders on board to explain what this would look like, what special needs they might have. And in my case, what I ended up doing is we ended up working with a place called Ability to Go. They are on the East Coast. And they focus on people that are neurodiverse, so people that are on the spectrum, that are wanting to get into call centers, and they believe that they can work there part-time. So we were able to take a cohort of 20 people coming into our call center this past April that were on the spectrum. They were able to meet the minimum standards of what we would need to do the expectations of the job. They did need some extra equipment depending on what their disability was, and we were able to get them up and running, and they've been doing amazing. So it was, again, a test of starting small, and that's just one example. And I have to tell you that people were so excited to get involved and actually help this group. And this group that we're working with was really just excited to have the opportunity to work in corporate America, because that's one of their dreams, is that they want a normal job. They want to be treated as if they're normal versus someone that has a disability. So I have this table here to really show you other organizations that are out there. And I just want to give a couple examples, because if this is a new world for you, it might be hard to figure out how to connect the dots or where to even start. So Justice Involved are people that have been formerly incarcerated. American Family has worked with Next Chapter. They are a boot camp that they put on for people that have been formerly incarcerated that fall into the tech space. Once they go through this boot camp and they pass with flying colors, they come over to American Family, and we host them for 5 months. And everybody that's come from Next Chapter, we've actually offered full-time roles to. So again, you're giving them a second chance at life. If you look at any stats related to people that have been formerly incarcerated, a majority of them do end up back in jail because there are not government programs that really support them. So you have an opportunity to really make a difference here with that group by giving them that second chance. So I wanted to give you a couple other organizations that are all over the country that you might want to look into exploring if somebody that's been Justice Involved is an important area in your organization. When I talked about disabilities, in my world, we call it abilities, just because they are very talented people that just haven't had the opportunity to work in different areas. And then I named off a couple different women groups that you can look into. Anita B is a tech organization that's nonprofit, really focusing on women in tech, because it's been challenging for women to get into that space and feel supported in that industry. So there's a great opportunity to work with them. And then veterans have been some of my favorite people to work with and build out opportunities, because they are very loyal. They're very good at what they do. It's just when you look at their resume, they use a different language that maybe corporate America doesn't understand. And so there's some training opportunities that needs to happen on the hiring manager side and the TA side with talent acquisition, so that we can make those connections and understand it. After you get your program up and running, and you think it's at a point where you want to start communicating about it internally and externally, then you can start building out that plan and showcasing your successes, because this is how you're going to build out the excitement to build out another program, to do something different, or expand the pilot that you ended up doing. I ended up doing videos. I ended up doing some articles that were internal and external to get people excited. And it was interesting, the internal communication. We had hiring managers that really wanted to get involved and volunteer time to help our people that were in our care center and help support them, so that they know that they're wanted here and that we want to continue to help that community. And then again, you can start creating your own white paper and showing people how easy it is to do it once you figure out the foundation of your programs. I always like to tell you guys that this is a phase. So again, working in the call center or working with Next Chapter and the tech space, you want to remember that you want to build an 80% product, and then you got that 20% wiggle room so that you can make differences with your program that you built. So I always call, like, there's a 2.0 down the stage, there's a 3.0 stage, but right now getting the 1.0 is what you want to get up and running, and then you can always enhance. So again, you'll find findings and you'll learn lessons, and then you apply that into your next phases. And that, folks, is the high level of how to build out a program at your organization for non-traditional talent. Are there any questions I can answer for you?